Good morning, everyone. Jim Clarke here to share another contemplation with you from the Synchronicity Sanctuary here in Central Virginia. And the sharing that I'm going to explore with you today is I am a Master Illusionist. I am the one and only. Find out what is real when a liar can only speak the truth. So we have what appears to be something of a contradiction. Am I true or am I not true? What is the truth? This is a situation that human beings have confronted since there's been human beings, really. There's the game of who we are and there's the game of who we are not. And this brings us to the creation game, the substratum, the source of all creation, as it has been understood over different mystical and meditative traditions and sussed out, you might say, from experiencing the truth over many years, is that there is a play of polarities, a play of consciousness. So just look at it from the experience of your life. In my case, it was like most people's lives. I was born without a clue. I had no knowledge of anything. I had no awareness of anything but being a body with a mind and my thoughts and my feelings and the experiences that I had. And then there's the enculturation process. You're taught. You get information from your parents, from your school, from your peers. And if you're in a religious tradition, you get some more enculturation from that. So you take on all this information, and it's based on separation. God is up there, you're down here, and you're separate. So you have this belief system that you're working with. On the one hand, you have these rules that you're supposed to follow. If you want to go to heaven, you got to behave this way. If you don't, well, you know what that means. So you're put in this position so that you're forced to kind of look at the absurdity of it all, ultimately. And consciousness has an intention in itself to fully be itself. And to fully be itself, it creates this game. So it pretends to be what it is not. We are in the experience of pretending to be who we are not because we are fulfilling the intention in consciousness, which we are. So we take on the beliefs, maybe lifetime after lifetime, until we are fulfilled in that experience, until we have explored all the possibilities of being who we are not. And when we reach that point, it's kind of like a extreme in our cellular development. So when we reach that extreme, the polarities naturally begin to shift, and we go from the extreme negative and we start to move to the positive. Meditation shows up in our life. A teacher shows up in our life in some form or another. And we begin to have experiences that we never had before. The experience of who we are truthfully. We begin to meditate. We start to put a focus on the interior of our being. And we have breakthrough experiences. Many illuminations about something that we are that we had never even considered before because we couldn't. And as we go through this process, we utilize tools like the one that I'm sharing with you today to help us put a very specific focus on ourselves as we go into our meditation. That is another way to create an intention to reveal something to us for the sake of us. And there's a point at which we're not sure what's what. Are we an ego? Are we not the ego? If we're not the ego, is it okay? Why is the ego still here? And we get judgmental and we kind of confused unless we have someone to point out what is real and what is not real and what is appropriate. And of course, I'm a master illusionist. I am the one and only is really saying you're both. And what is real when a liar can only speak the truth? This is the outcome of a life lived consciously. As you begin to meditate and you begin to explore the reality of yourself, the reality of your world, you have breakthroughs, you have experiences that reveal elements of that truth, and then you have your clearing process where the information that you used to hold that said you were separate, that you were something less than the truth, is replaced by the experience of the truth. And as this continues on, eventually you become balanced. You gain enough balance and you begin to have a presence. There's a negative polarity, there's a positive polarity, and then there's the space between the polarities. Consciousness witnessing itself, watching both polarities. This is you, this is your truth. It's not this or that, it's both. So if you're lucky enough to have a teacher who can guide you through this process, because it's very confusing. I know when I first started meditating, I had all kinds of judgments that I would make about myself. You know, if my mind was thinking and I was supposed to be meditating, something was wrong. If I felt one way, or if I had a negative thought towards somebody, there was still that good old Christian judgment coming out. And I was kind of, I was going back and forth about, was I getting anywhere? Was I really tapping into something that was real? Was I developing something that I was supposed to be developing from meditating? And I explored different systems. I went through all kinds of experiences, some of them very powerful. And then there was the clearing process that I just mentioned. Sometimes I would be very elevated and very blissful, and then an hour later I would just want to kill everybody in my world because the negativity, as it was leaving, I was getting the experience of its presence as it was leaving, as I experienced the presence of the truth as it came in. And then the clearing process was happening, which was a good sign, but it took me a long time to find out that that was actually a good sign. I didn't understand it. So we have this duality that we were fully immersed in for lifetimes, and now we're moving towards the truth of who we are. And this is where teachers are very valuable to us because they can help us sort out. Now, the teacher might be a book, the teacher might be somebody you know. It's not necessarily going to be a mystic, at least not out front. It could be many forms, but the point is that as you move from illusion to truth, as you start to develop the truth of who you are in relation to the development that you created as the illusion of being a separate human being, a physical entity that had a beginning to life and an end to life. When you move from one to the other, as you keep exploring this and developing it, all manner of thoughts and feelings and so forth are going to come up, and you don't have the clarity to be able to sort out what's real and what isn't real until you have established enough balance, until the presence of yourself within yourself becomes a constant. When that happens, and it does happen, then there is an experiential element in your experience that is very truthful. And that experience overwhelms the mental content, the beliefs that once had a hold on you. And it's a constant reminder of the truth of who you are. And so you continue to meditate, because the more you meditate, the more you cultivate the truth of who you are, the more blissful you become. So why wouldn't you want to continue that, huh? Nobody ever goes back, as far as I know anyway. Once you get to a certain point in your evolution, your cellular evolution, and you realize that the suffering and the torment that you used to experience in ignorance, why would you choose to go back to that again if you have a choice? And you do have a choice. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. What's real when a liar can only speak the truth? I lived much of my life lying. To myself first, and then to everybody in my world, in a sense that as I believed I was a human being, as I believed that I was separate from anything sourceful, anything spiritual, I was constantly living a lie. So how could I not lie, huh? We know that we have these rules dictated by moralistic belief systems, but we also experience that we can't live up to them. And yet somehow people still want to hang on to that like it's a safety net. And so they struggle with this. And then when they slip, of course, they want to sweep that under the carpet because they didn't do something, or they did something they think that they're guilty of, when in truth it is simply consciousness living out its intention, either the intention to be what it is not, or the intention to be what it is. In both cases, consciousness is what it is. The source of creation can only ever be the source of creation. And if it's playing a game, it's playing a game. If it's discovering itself for the sake of itself, to celebrate itself, then that's what it's doing. And your part in it is to be that consciousness, because that's all you can ever be. End of game, end of story. Although it's an ongoing story for us as we continue to develop, we continue to meditate, we continue to go into ourselves, we continue to contemplate and see how far we can go before the game is over in this lifetime. But knowing that they are both the same, knowing that judgment really doesn't have any place, clarity and discernment definitely have a place in the development and the evolution of your consciousness, but judgment, that comes from separation, and that comes from an illusion. As we give up the illusion, we give up the judgment, and we replace the judgment with compassion and with the desire to share and help other people on their journey. It just naturally comes to you that way. So that's what I wanted to share with you on this Monday morning. And the power of contemplation such as this, combined with the balance that you create from a meditative lifestyle and a holistic lifestyle that supports balance, is huge. So then that's the whole purpose of sharing these, is that if you haven't heard them before, you might want to explore them. Anyway, I use them now still to this day, and that's one of the things I like about this sharing, is that as I share a contemplation that I experienced many years ago, I get to go into it again, and I do. And sometimes I still come up with insights about things that I can shift and move to help bring more balance to myself. So I think that's pretty much a wrap for today. I hope you get something useful out of this, and I wish you well, and I will see you next Monday and share another contemplation with you. Thank you.